Let's try that again. I forgot to hit record on the thing. Hello, I'm a professional. Thanks for joining me. Hey, whoa, we don't want to see that. Thanks for joining me this balmy summer evening in the hemisphere that I reside in. It is summertime. I saw Salty's, the time lapse with commentary, and I thought that was a cool idea. So this is my version of the time lapse. I'm going to be sitting here with the sessions of the songs that I did over the past month, and I can just start talking about what I did and what my thoughts were, if any. So I thought I'd do these in order. So let's just get cracking. This is running now. If you can see down the bottom here, I've got a bit of information about how my computer's running. So I might have to. Hello. Yes. Okay. So there's a bit of a delay. I can't talk like that. I'm going to have to meet this dang computer halfway. It still really hasn't changed that. Sorry, just bear with me. Yeah, that's really firing now. Okay, let's get back to the other one. Okay, so this computer's, I don't know, it's not old, it's not new. Maybe it's about a year and a half old. And it's okay, but I'm trying to get it to do a lot of things at once. So sorry if it crashes. I'm going to try my best. It's running at 47. It's not too bad. Okay, anyway, so let's, can you hear that? Every time I go back to the start of the session, it's going to click. So hopefully this is going to work. We are going to listen to the first track called Go Full Bore, which was inspired by the title, which is something that my cousins and my brothers and I used to say when we were kids. Go full bore just means go really fast and take it to the max, and I guess this track does do that. Yeah, that's all operational. I'm just going to double check this guy, and indeed that is firing. Good. All right, cool. Live streams are always a bit of a risk, because if you just forget one thing, then the whole thing's been a waste of time. But hopefully that's not the case. So you can see here, this is my somewhat failed attempt. If you can see up here, let's start from the start. We've got intro chord. Let's have a listen to what the hell that is. Every time I solo a track, my vocal's going to cut out. I couldn't figure out a way around that. So. Okay, that's boring. It's just a fade in of a guitar. So let's have a listen and let's see how we go. Okay, straight away I want to talk about that little rumble. I've got to find it though. Intro sound. That's it. Cool. So that is produced by this guy. Dun dun dun! This was this amazing audio plugin that I found called the FM Drive. And for some reason, it has my name written under it. When I registered it, when I bought it, it puts your name on it. And I thought, that's good. It has my name on a Mega Drive. So for those who don't know what this thing is, it's a Sega Mega Drive. And the plugin is an exact replication of the sound chip that was used for all of those early 90s video game soundtracks. Looks like it was called the Yamaha YM2612. So this thing's really cool. I still really don't know how to create like custom sounds. I haven't really spent that much time with it. Over here, there's a bunch of presets, and they're the presets that I've used. As you can see, Toe Jam, if anyone remembers that game, Toe Jam and Earl. The Sonic Rings, which I obviously used a lot in this song. Go Full Bore, Sonic the Hedgehog, going really fast. Made a lot of sense at the time. Okay, so let's have a listen. So that's the intro sound, and those are the rings there. All right, so that guitar part took me for... I might as well just let this play. This guitar part took forever. As you can see, I couldn't even play... I couldn't even play through the whole thing without having to kind of overdub. And I tried to do this little glitchy... Happens so fast though. So that's just a cut and paste job on that one note. Alright, let's keep going. So, it looks like in order to save some kind of... I probably didn't really need to do it, but at the time I thought I'd save processing power and do all of the vocals in a separate session. So, as you can see here, I've got a track called Vocals, and that has all of the vocals on it. Fire up the great machine that I picked up for underground stay. Let's drive into the night and up. Death straight, peace and roll. I thought that from a distance, if I squint, it kind of reminds me of... Wow, it's super daring, and I also wrote the reverb and effects onto that track thinking it'll be fine. And luckily, it more or less was fine. All right, let's keep listening. Fire up the great machine that I picked up for underground stay. Let's drive into the night and up. Death straight, peace and roll. I thought that from a distance, I squint, it kind of reminds me of Back Up, Back to the Future. Orient, deep sea flight, even baseball road desire to go faster when the sun does what men are supposed to do. Big football swearing, making fun of people's haircuts and not talking about the feelings of your fear. I got my license, I didn't drive the whole of the month that I... Mega Drive lead. Baby, blame me, oh wait, no, you should blame it on that awful Desert Town Swelter. Okay, Desert Town Swelter was a reference to this little desert town that I lived in for a few years when I first started driving. This Mitsubishi Magna. It was a 1985 Mitsubishi Magna, so you should, yeah, Google that car and look how awesome it was. I think I paid under 1,000 Australian dollars for that car, I think, from memory. Such a long time ago. Anyway. And also, the problematic thing is that Reaper, I'm using a piece of software called Reaper. Now, I've stopped it, but now when I start it, it will go to wherever this cursor here is, this line here. So, sorry if we've already listened to this. Oh, and another thing I should point out, on this song, I'm using a plugin called Modo Bass. So I'm not playing a real bass guitar on this song. Controversial, I know, but this is the guy here. This is from IK Multimedia. The reason I can't really remember, I think I had an idea of using this thing, which is, I don't know, I can't see my own live stream at the moment, but this is a MIDI pickup, which enables me to use synth sounds and keyboard sounds essentially on a guitar. This slots underneath the strings of a guitar. As you can see, it has like 6 little hexagonic pickups, I guess. And the idea I had for some reason was I'll play bass on, I don't know, like I've got this problem where I spend too much money on plugins. Like I watch a lot of videos on YouTube with gear reviews and whatever, and I just came across a review of this plugin, and I was like, I gotta have that! I have to buy this right now! So I bought it, and it is really good. As you can see, it models a bunch of different basses. So let's just solo this out and just have a listen to some of those sounds. Leave it on the Rickenbacker for now. So I guess that was my logic. Like if I wanted to have a different style of bass sound, then I had that flexibility, because at the moment I've only got this guy. This is like a mid-2000s Fender jazz bass. So I play all my bass parts on that. So I just thought, well, what if I could get other sounds and not have to spend thousands of dollars per bass guitar to achieve them? Anyway, maybe that's boring. I don't know. Let's keep listening to the track. All right, we got way past that. Let's try it from here. Baby, bring me away. No, you should blame it on that awful downtown shelter. But some stupid voice that night on the down road was incessantly telling me to go for more, go for more. The stale old sausage rolls from dodgy petrol stations, I think the lyric was. Eating stale sausage. So I had a problem with eating really bad food from petrol stations. Still, sometimes I still do that. I see the petrol station as I'm driving, and I'm thinking I should just get like a filthy old sausage roll. I don't know why. I don't know where that comes from. I just don't think about things. I don't think about my health enough. Anyway, so I've got a track here which is called Black Metal Guitar. For guitars for this entire project, I've got it in my head that I don't want to mic anything up, really. I'm just going to use, once again, everything in what they call it in the box, which is basically using plugins for everything. So for guitar tracks, there's two main plugins that I use. I get so lost. Here we go. Black Metal Guitar. So, okay. So for this is a reason why I don't use this anymore. I must have brought it up just for this song. But this is a pretty popular plugin called Bias Effects. But I don't like it because it takes forever to load, and it's really sometimes it's really inconsistent with its loading times, and sometimes it says it loads, but then it doesn't. Anyway, let's have a listen to the Black Metal Guitar track. Really nasty. For the main guitar parts, I'm using this guy, which doesn't look like much here. They don't try to make it look like an amplifier or anything. But this is the Thermionic M4 from Kazrock, which is modeling a Mesa Boogie Mark IV. I had a Mesa Boogie Mark IV for years before I got my Marshall endorsement, and really amazing amp. Don't tell Marshall that I said that, but the Mark IV is really good. I mean, Marshall are obviously amazing too. They're like household name amplifiers, so I don't need to sing their praises too much here. But these plugins are really good. And see, I always like trying out, once again, I just have this problem with trying out plugins. Again, this looks like nothing. And this is a model of a Boss Super Overdrive pedal, which I actually use live. And I don't know why I didn't just set it up and use it. I had in my head that I just wanted to keep things as simple as possible and recallable as possible as well. When I'm sort of doing this project, you know, where I'm trying to work as fast as I can, I want to be able to just pull up a sound and just use it rather than spend hours trying to get the right sound. I don't know, it just seemed to make more sense this way. Okay. Anyway, I feel like I'm talking more than we're listening here. Where are we going from? The black metal section. Okay, so when it gets into this part, this is where it gets really exciting to me. When those orchestra chords hit. Now, okay, we've got it here, strings. Then we're going to see the sound of these strings a lot more intensely in actually the latest song that I've done, Moon and Moron. But let's just have a listen to these. As you can see, once again, I've just bounced these down into just a stereo file. These would have been done in another session. I just think, yeah, I just improvised those chords on keyboard, and I thought they sounded really intense. I've screwed up my wrist somehow, so apologies if you see me doing that. Anyway, so that's where the strings hit, and that's the, I guess the chorus is where I'm just saying go full bore. All right, so this, yeah, so let's backtrack a little bit. This bit, I'm not, to be honest, I'm not overly thrilled with the vocal part, but I mean, there's something about the tone I should have played with. Feeling isolated in the middle. I love this bit. This is good. Feeling isolated in the middle of the country. It was midnight and I wasn't doing well. So you can hear that distorts. Now that was on purpose. You can't really hear it distort in the context of the mix. Maybe you can, but the idea is that it kind of blends a little bit better with the rest of the music. Feeling isolated in the middle of the country. It was midnight and I wasn't doing well. Now that's very intentionally got like a broken radio sound to it, but I don't know if I like it. And the lyrics sort of talk about how maybe a few days before I had wrote this song, I did actually have a dream that my now ex. Oh, actually, I wasn't with her when I had the car even. But she had one, so probably that's why I dreamt it. She had a newer version of that same car. And I had a dream that she stole my car and did a burnout, which you know what a burnout is. Obviously, was when you make the wheels do a thing. I'm such an idiot when it comes to car stuff. Oh yeah, and she crashed it. In my dream, she crashed it into a fence. Anyway, yeah, so I can't remember if I wrote it somewhere or whatever, but yeah, I think I did, where I talked about like Deep Purple's Highway Star, and even songs like Aces High from Iron Maiden, or Wheels of Fire by Manowar. It's all these, like, metal bands have always got these songs about driving cars or motorbikes. They're always like really tough and, you know, thrill-seeking. What's that song? Kickstart My Heart by Motley Crue. And I like those songs, but I could never relate to just that feeling of getting in a car and just driving it really fast. Like, it's never really appealed to me. So this song is it's not really making fun of those songs, but it's making fun of the fact that I don't get into that kind of stuff, and how I've never speeded. Well, the one time I've intentionally speeded in my car was really lame, and so that's what the story is. Anyway. Yeah, so this is the part I was talking about where... It's just, that's really hectic to me. And then it goes into the 80s section. And I think I saw something up here. 80s drums. Let's have a listen to how they sound. Cool. So this is an emulation of this guy. Actually, I'm not sure what the Linn drums look like. I think these were Linn drums, because there's a few of them. There was the Simmons drums, which actually I think these are Simmons drums, but the Linn drum, I don't know. Doesn't have a picture of them, so I don't know what they look like. You know, those toms. Very cool sounding thing. Actually, where we rehearse, where the Tohida live band rehearse, there is a set of these just laying around. I think at the moment they're non-operational, but somebody's working on getting them to a playable standard. Well, my voice sounds good in this bottle. Good. Maybe I'll use that in a song later. All right, so 80s drums, very cool. Oh, and just in terms of drum sounds in general, I switch between playing drums on this kit. I don't know if you should be able to see this kit. This is an Elisa's Crimson electronic kit. And I actually use, you probably can't see this, this is an Elisa's MIDI controller. So I play drums on this, and I also, most of the time, actually get right in there and program drums like this. As you can see, this particular song is right on the money. Like, you can see that it's like every drum hit is right on the beat. Not all the songs are done that way, but in this case, I just wanted that super tight electronic sound, I guess. Oh, let's kick that back a little bit. Okay, this bit is definitely inspired by a song called Deja Vu by Iron Maiden. Actually, there's a song, a similar song on that album. I'm trying to think of the name. Oh, The Loneliness of the Long Distance Runner. The loneliness Great song. You should check out that the Iron Maiden. Actually, I think that was the first CD I ever bought. I'm getting all nostalgic here, thinking about the first car and the first CD I bought. Best, hands down, the best cover art from any Iron Maiden album. So go and pester Salty about doing a cover of the Somewhere in Time album cover, because then I know all of those songs like the back of my hand. So that would be super cool. Anyway. Nico McBrain drum fill there. Okay, so I probably don't need to say this, but this part is Sonic the Hedgehog, Green Hill Zone, Act 1 all the way. I used to play that game so much. Now I'm struggling to remember the actual melody that I ripped off there. Dun 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 dun. Do 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 do. No, that's mine. Damn it, I can't remember. But it's super similar to that. So, sorry, Mega Hats. That's the Mega Drive hi-hat sound, and the Mega Drive bass sound, one of the. Mega Drive kick. Wait, what's this? Mega Drive crazy. I don't know what this is. Okay, so it's that sound, apparently. Mega Drive lead. So this is just this huge lesson in like how nostalgic, nostalgic sounds can evoke a certain kind of emotion. Like, just when I hear that sound, it just reminds me of like just playing, just wasting time playing video games when I was a kid. Anyway, good. So the guitars are actually playing the. Now let's see which guitars. I'm pretty sure for these guitar parts I've used this guy, Mercurial Software, Spark, which is now hopefully if I change these models it won't change the sound. It doesn't matter anyway. These are emulations of 4 Marshall amplifiers. This plugin's really good. It's like sometimes when I'm playing this thing I just forget that I'm using a plugin. AFD I think is the model of a JVM. I don't know. The 800's obviously the JCM 800. They've been an old Plexis, the 67 and the 68. But I've engaged the chorus here. Now the chorus effect slightly detunes one signal to give you that it's a very 80s sound, and for a long time I didn't like this sound, but for some reason now I think it's good. Very cool. Again, very reminiscent of that of those mid-80s things. What else we got here? The Oberheim, which was a keyboard from the early 80s, I think. It's achieved by this guy, which is the OBXD, I think they call it. And this is a free plugin. I don't know who makes this. Data Sounds. Dat Sounds? Okay, Dat Sounds. Fair enough. And that sounds like this. I don't know if there's any here. Yeah, there is. Sorry, in the previous section. Here it is. That's kind of fun. And then okay, I've called this Jump Oberheim because this Oberheim keyboard was very famously used on the intro to Van Halen's Jump. The dubstep things were done with a plugin by Isotope called... Oh man, I can't remember the name of the plugin because once again I've used... I've done it in a separate session for some reason. I've called this Dubstep Crap. Dubstep Crap 2. I was super happy with the way this sounded. But, you know, with sounds, getting back to the nostalgia thing, it's like you always run the risk of sounding dated very quickly. And I think the dubstep sound is kind of done now. But I don't know. I can't tell. I try to keep on top of this shit as much as I can, but it's... Okay, so that was from the second chorus, and this was the second chorus. I don't know why I didn't put these on the same track. Anyway, because I'm a dingus, probably is the reason why I didn't do that. Simple as that. See, I don't know what the use by date is on that kind of sound because it seems like after maybe 20 years, sounds are acceptable again. I remember there's a reference in this song where I said, you know, I got my license in the late 90s and I was listening to a lot of 80s music. And at the time, I remember people just making fun of me for listening to 80s music in the 90s because it was dated. But now, thanks in part to things like Stranger Things and... I don't know. 80s music is like good. Anyway, that's always fascinated me. It's funny how over here I've tried to make an effort. Reaper has this function where you can put pictures for each track so you know which picture it is. And I've also, this is my failed attempt at trying to be organized and color coding the tracks, but as you can see, I've started out doing that, and then after a while I just gave up because I'm colorblind and I don't know, it just doesn't seem to work. But the downside to that is I get very lost very quickly. As I'm listening to this, I'm just getting lost trying to find the tracks. Anyway, so let's just listen from here. Back to that guitar part. That scream. Lots of delay. Very 80s metal, I guess. Gradually stepped on the pedal and got into 140 km an hour. The steering wheel started to shake a bit and I got nervous and slowed it back down. The next day was more or less normal except for some reason I told my mother. finish with the sound that we started with. I've put a few pan automations on that, have I? Yeah. Swirling around the head stuff. Okay, cool. So that's Go Full Bore. That was song number 1. So just bear with me. My microphone is going to cut out as I switch to the next session. The next one we're going to look at is the song called The Guy That No One Really Knows. So let's check that guy out. And we're back for song number 2. The Guy That No One Really Knows. Now, this song, I don't know where to start. This has, as you can see, well, maybe you can't see, maybe I'll explain. These guys who look like little dashes are like MIDI instruments. So, like, sounds that... or two. Why can't I hear that? Oh, because I bounced that. Okay, so MIDI instruments, you know, sounds that I'm using, controlling with a keyboard that aren't with microphones in front of them. But this song has these guys, which are waveforms, which are actual sounds with a microphone, acoustic instruments, I guess is the best way to describe that. All right, so let's check this out from the beginning. Now, this thing starts super quietly with just a... Let's check this just to make sure. All looks functional. This starts with just an acoustic guitar and a vocal. So, as you can see over here, this is the what they call the master bus. So, all of the tracks go into this, and then it comes out of the master track. If that makes any sense. I didn't explain that very well. And as you can see, it's not very loud. This, when I was writing this song, I had the idea of playing a banjo. So this guy here, I went and bought an extremely cheap banjo made by Martinez. I mean, what kind of a name is Martinez? Obviously, ripping on the name Martin, who, an American guitar manufacturer. still trying to learn how to play it. It's tuned differently to a guitar, so it's, as you can see, it's got this funky tuning peg like halfway up the neck. Well, not halfway, but on the 5th fret. So you have, it's basically an open G chord. And a high G on top. So I just imagined having that sound, so I went and bought a cheap one to see how it sounded, and it sounds okay. Let's solo that track. As you can see, there's a lot of shit here. Trying to find the banjo. There it is. So that's the banjo part. I think here I'm doing some whistling. There. I'm very impressed and very fascinated by people who can whistle very well. I am a medium level whistler.
Sun may shine, but the wind blows cold, and it carries whispers and secrets told. And that's how it goes, for they gather no one really knows.
So through that, I have a Hammond organ somewhere. It's not a Hammond. It's not a real Hammond. I can't afford a real Hammond. If someone wants to send me a real Hammond organ, please do so. I used to live with a guy who, getting back to the previous story of the first car thing, I lived with a guy who was a John Lord fanatic. He knew every Deep Purple song. He had a picture of Deep Purple in his lounge room, and he looked like John Lord. Like, he had the mustache and the long hair. He was just obsessed. You know when people get a little bit too obsessed with their heroes? This definitely was that kind of guy. Super sweet, loving, caring dude. And he had this psycho Siamese cat who would only ever be calm around him. Like, if I was ever home and the cat... if I was ever home and the cat was there, it would just freak out and try to claw me to pieces. He was he had a alcohol problem, and we used to play every Monday night at this local pub, and we just play, Deep Purple and Steppenwolf covers and like ZZ Top and all that kind of stuff. Again, this was in the late 90s, so it felt like the 70s stuff was just becoming cool again because the 20-year factor. And he had all of this vintage stuff. Like, he had the old... he had an old C3. Now, I can't remember, the B3 and the C3 were similar. One was built in a cabinet, and one had legs. One was more portable than the other, but I actually can't remember which one he had. But he also had an L series Hammond, which was a smaller version again. Had like 4 Leslies. He just loved it. But he used to get so drunk at some of these gigs that we did that he couldn't like pack up his gear properly. So we'd just leave it at the venue, and sometimes the venue would get annoyed at that and just put it out the back in this uncovered sort of outdoors into this like beer garden. and it would rain, and his this amazing beautiful Hammonds would just get trashed because he'd just leave them out in the rain. Oh, it was just to kill me. I was like, man, do you not realize like how amazing these instruments are? And that was in the 90s, so that was like 20 years ago. So these instruments would be even more sought after now because, as you know, stuff from the 60s and 70s, it just gets older and older and more valuable. Anyway, rambling as usual. So that's the banjo on the Hammond. Not a real Hammond. It's a Hammond emulation. I don't know where it is, but you know, this is a classic case of me. I should be labeling this stuff better. Where is it? Can anybody see it? Hammond. Oh, it's like right under the banjo, right there. Here we go. All those little clicks and and stuff. Thankfully, here in 2018, we can get this stuff sounding incredibly close to the real thing. And we don't have to deal with servicing the equipment and storing it and all the rest of it. I used to have an old Farfisa, which just take up too much room, and it was... I live in a very small place. So, room is very important. So yeah, so this plugin, I've probably disabled it to once again save processing power, but it was made by Acoustic Samples, I think is the name of the company, who do this really well modeled Hammond organ. And so now we're into the second verse. Oh, that's the chorus. So let's go into the verse.
Alright, so William was the post.
Now that thing is a vibra slap. Took me a long time to figure out what the name of that thing is. That thing. Very cool. Very good. Here we go.
Alright, so William was the postal man that Joan was married to. And he saw the two of them.
Sounds like a mix of piano. Now the piano sound is by a company called 8Dio, which of course I thought was good because it had Dio in the name. They make really good plugins. They make really good sounding things, but sometimes temperamental in the actual interface of the thing. Oh, Bouzouki. Once again, in order to save, time and just trying to do things as quickly as possible, I'm literally just playing my bouzouki. This guy. Which is... I really shouldn't be playing. My wrist is killing me. This is mediumly priced bouzouki. I can't remember who makes it. I put a little GoPro mount on here at some point, and I've covered the... Well, actually, I don't even think the name of the manufacturer is there. It's just got a cross there. So that's the bouzouki, and I'm literally just pulling this Shure SM7B mic down on that guy, and it sounds really good. I think it does, at least.
They both stepped back outside.
So what we're hearing is a combination of bouzouki, banjo, and acoustic guitar. Let's see if we can find those acoustics.
A man of rocky temperament was William,
that's
to
right
be
there.
sure. door.
One's capoed, one isn't.
Unconscious thoughts a funny thing, and rage is hard to.
So if anyone can think of what I've ripped off with this delay on one of the words here.
Converse from down the street or two, and he watched her now till finally they both stepped back outside.
That bit. And see, sometimes you see here, this is outside. That's the word. And rather than set up automation, I've just copied that word onto another track and put a delay on it.
Outside.
So that sounds like this soloed. Which saves a lot of time for me. The name of the game here is trying to do things quickly.
There as he cried, a man of rocky temperament.
Alright, so there's BVs here, which sound like this. Cool.
No less when staring at
harmonies and doubled for the second chorus.
Gave you up, but understand, I was a nervous, dumb young man. And I know it's hard to keep it quiet for now.
Now the next part was inspired by. There's a song by Bruce Springsteen called "The Ghost of Tom Joad," who Rage Against the Machine actually did a cover of it on their covers album. And then he re-recorded it with Tom Morello from Rage Against the Machine for maybe his last studio album. And it is so good. And that's what inspired me to use a whammy pedal on the solos coming up. Okay, this year was my failed attempt in trying to build excitement.
Yeah!
That sounds dumb. And I didn't turn it up very loud, probably because I thought, no, it's not. I'm not getting the effect that I wanted here. You can barely hear it. So it sounds like we're back here. That rarely happens, actually, but when it does, it's really annoying. So Reaper crashed for some reason when I soloed out those guitar tracks.
Write them down and...
So we're up to around here. I'm too scared to solo those tracks now, but basically we have normal guitar, like normal signal guitar, wah guitar, and then a whammy pedal guitar at the end. We have some ukulele.
You can't speak the words and thoughts, your stormy brain. He thought something was up when his mailbox overflowed. A month or so of letters scattered all over the road. They found him on a Monday
Inside his house alone. Now that lyric, I don't know if this is getting too much personal information here, but this kind of, the idea that they found this guy that nobody really knew or cared about or checked on a lot was actually inspired by my father's. My parents broke up when I was like 14 or something, and my dad started seeing this woman. She was really nice when she was sober, but when she had an alcohol problem. Seems like it seems like the the bother of the bottle has hit a couple of times in this song now. She died in the mid-2000s. He broke up with her because she was just too much to handle, because she had such a problem with the booze thing, and she was in her house dead for a long time, weeks. And now in the song, they sort of say, it says, you know, people only latched onto something was wrong when they saw the letters just overflow his mailbox. But in reality, her neighbor said this is really horrible. I'm sorry to dampen the mood here, but they said that her house started to smell really bad, and so that's when the police broke down the door, I guess, and went in there and found her dead. And because the alcohol had become such a problem, then, you know, even everyone in her family didn't really want to have anything to do with her. So she died alone in this house. Yeah, it's really sad. Where do we go to from here? Don't drink, basically. Don't let the we'll drink if you want, but don't let it overtake you. A lot of this stuff. See, I've got the piano track here, which I've for some reason labeled Penano. I've bounced down because, again, trying to save processing power. So that's a very somber sound to me. There's very low piano notes. The drums, this drum track I think is, which happens throughout the track. That's I haven't talked about drums much, have I? I talked about playing them and talked about what I used here.
And the next day,
this is Addictive Drums by XLN Audio, which is I've been using for years, and they've really come a long way, particularly in the latest set of samples. This is one of their latest ones. So I also use this guy, Stephen Slate drums as well.
guy that no
Old
one really
PRS.
knew.
You can hear that straight away.
And it's mostly true. The story
mostly
of the
true
guy
line.
that no one really knew. And thus concludes my yarn about the guy that no one really knew.
All right, so yeah, so now you know a little bit more about that song. I think I'm going to take a quick water break and, well, water break meaning I need to go refill this. And as I do that, I will load song number 3, which was the cover of Meatloaf's Bat Out of Hell. So for years I thought it was Bat Outer Hell, but it's Bat Out of Hell, even though he says Bat Outer Hell in the song. Anyway, slightly boring. All right. So you won't hear me for a while. Go and grab a coffee, do what you need to do, and we'll meet back here in about 2 minutes. I'll put old mate over here on the microphone so you can have something to look at. Okay, we're back. Hello, hi. Sorry about that. That took longer than what I thought. That looks like it's happening. Okay, so I don't know where that's gone. Let's steal this one. I have 2 of these. Oh, the microphone's falling off my head. Microphone? Headphones. So, where should I start with this one? So, Meatloaf. This was, well, obviously it's one of the biggest selling albums of all time. Meatloaf, Bat Out of Hell. I think Salty said this is one of the first covers he saw, which blew him away. And honestly, I used to have to take a bus to school, and Meatloaf used to, like, the bus driver used to love Meatloaf, so it used to kind of annoy me a little bit. But then at some point I listened to Bat Out of Hell, and yeah, it was pretty amazing. Particularly this song. I mean, it's a classic, but it's such a huge track. So in my head, when I started doing these covers, I was like, well, it was sweet. This is going to be great because I just have to record the song. I don't have to spend the hours writing the song. It should happen pretty quickly. But I forgot that you have to actually learn all these parts. Okay, so by the looks of things, I've bounced all of these drum tracks. So the drum tracks are a combination of... No, I don't want to delete the track. Let's go back here. Addictive Drums, AD, Stephen Slate Drums, SSD, and PD, which is Perfect Drums. So let's start with that, shall we? Let's see what those three different drum sounds are doing. Okay, sounds like I'm using Addictive Drums for a subby bass drum and snare. Most of the sound, I'll just double check this again. That looks like it's behaving itself. That's good. Hello. I'll reply to some of those comments in a second. Perfect Drums is basically giving us the attack. And what I mean by attack is the very first thing you hear when you hear a snare drum is like a clicking I don't know how to describe it, but this is basically giving us the definition, and the Slate Drums has given us the body. I don't know how to explain it better than that. So that's a very processed sound. And that's quite processed as well, I guess. So the drums sound like this, all three tracks together. So that's that. And also I should point out that the track actually starts with this guy. Now you can probably hear a little bit now. This is made by XLN Audio, and it's called the RC20 Retro Color. Now as you can see, this noise, it's a very simple plugin, very cool. As I turn this noise up, you can hear the crackle of an old record. There's a couple of different models here. 7-inch tape, 15-inch tape, tube, DC currents, I guess. A radio, VHS, cassette, very similar. 8-bit, white noise, pink noise, whatever they are. I think I had it on vinyl too. That seems to be the cool one. And I had it very slightly there. And also this space, which is basically the spacey reverb. Only using a very small amount of that. And then the wobble, very small amount as well. And the distort, I guess this simulates an old, maybe like power supply for a record player, maybe, I don't know. Anyway, you can affect how much is here. But I think this one I just left it all the way up. There it is. Now the piano part, you can probably hear that I'm not playing that. I can't play that. I saw a thing with Jim Steinman, and even he can't play it unless he has like a fast action piano. This is very fast, very, very cool piano line. But I also did it on some guitars. So that was pretty fun, nutting out those notes. Tubular Bells plugin is very cool. Very simple little plugin. Where is that guy? This guy. I have no idea who makes that. Plugin by Basilian Studios. Okay. Very cheap. Let's turn this off for now. Very minimal difference. So the middle guitar part, it's a combination of the actual notes that were on the recording and just improvised stuff. The piano doubled with the Hammond organ again. Now, for anyone that has heard Meatloaf nowadays,
there's a man in the shadows with a gun in his eye and a blade shining oh so bright.
he sounds terrible.
There's evil in the air and thunder in the sky and a killer's on the bloodshot streets.
And in a moment, I will tell you
Oh,
why.
and down in the tunnel where the deadly horizon. Oh, I swear I saw a young boy down in the gutter. He was starting to foam in the heat.
I love that line. That's my favourite line in the whole song. Starting to foam in the heat.
Oh, baby, you're the only thing in this whole world
All right.
that's pure.
Some very loose harmonies.
I gotta bring it out now before the final track of dawn.
Intentionally,
So we
by the
gotta
way.
make the most of
Well, kind of intentionally. You know, I figure them out and then just record them. And when background harmonies aren't super in tune, it actually adds a cool element to the sound of the thing. So I could have sat there and got them more perfect, but as you can see, I sort of learnt them. Where am I? There. I learnt them as I went along. So you can see that they're segmented here. They're not full passes. Just to save time, because they were the absolute last thing that I did. I recorded those maybe an hour or two before I released the song. Now, with the Meatloaf style of singing, he was great in the 70s, and great in the 90s too. I mean, that Bat Outta Hell 2 album was awesome. But after I recorded this, I blew my voice out trying to get that grit that he has, and I don't think I'll do that again because it's pretty taxing on the vocal cords. It's just that kind of grit has to come from bad technique. As we go further on in the track, you'll hear how my voice really starts to struggle.
Like a bat out of hell, I'll be gone when the morning comes. When the day is over, like a bat out of
Love
hell,
that.
I'll be gone, gone, gone. Like a bat out of hell, I'll be gone when the morning comes. When the day is done and the sun goes down and the moonlight shining through, then like a sinner before.
So obviously the piano parts here I can play.
Heaven, I'll come crawling on back to you.
So the piano track was a combination of clicked in sequence notes and my feeble attempts at playing things.
When the metal is hot and the
Okay, let's hear that hot again because that's my favorite thing of the whole track.
only hit the highway like a battering ram on a silver black phantom bike. When the metal is hot and the only hit the highway like a battering ram on a silver black phantom bike. When the metal is hot and the engine
Awesome.
and the engine is hungry and we're all about to see the light. Nothing ever grows in this rotten old hole and everything is stunted and lost. And nothing really runs, and nothing really rolls, and nothing's ever worth the cost. And I know if I'm damned if I ever get out, and maybe You know I'd rather be damned with
pitchy.
you. Well, I gotta be damned to know I wanna be damned. Dancing through the night.
Dance.
Well, I gotta be damned to know I wanna be damned. Gotta be damned, you know I wanna be damned.
Coming up, as you can see up here, I've labelled Good Riff. This is the best riff of the song. I didn't put the phaser on it though. Why?
Oh, baby, you're the only thing in this whole world that's pure and good and right. And wherever you are and wherever you go, there's always gonna be some light. But I gotta get out, I gotta break it out now before the final crack of dawn. So we gotta make the most of that one night together. When it's over, you know, we'll both be so alone. Like a bat out of hell, I'll be gone when the morning comes.
Okay, so here's where my... You can actually see it, because volume-wise, it gets pretty hot.
But when the day is done and the sun goes down and the moonlight shining through, then like a sinner before the gates of heaven, I'll come crawling on back to you.
It makes my throat hurt just listening to that.
And like a sinner before the gates of heaven.
So if you sing like that for 30 years, of course you're going to blow your voice out. Now that motorbike guitar has such a cool thing. I wasn't able to figure out how he did it. If you listen to the original recording of that motorbike guitar, it sounds so good. It sounds okay here, but man, the original Todd Rundgren thing was so like, had this amazing growl right out of the gate. That sounds okay, but let's listen to just that solo guitar. I used my new PRS Custom 24 for that. And yeah, some sort of black magic, no locking or anything on it, and it still stays in tune. It's amazing. With heavy whammy bar abuse like that. Crowbuzz the word escape.
And no one's gonna stop me now. I'm gonna make my escape. But I can't stop thinking of you. And I never see the sun curve till it's
another great riff here. Awesome. As you can see here, I'm really pushing it.
Torn and twisted at the foot of a burning vine. And I think somebody somewhere must be tolling a bell.
Obviously a patch in
I'm
here.
breaking out of my body and flying away like a bat out of hell. And I'm dying at the bottom of my pit in the blazing sun, torn and twisted at the foot of a burning pipe. And I think somebody somewhere must be tolling a bell. And the last thing I see is my heart still beating, still beating. I'm breaking out of my body and flying away like a bat out of hell.
So dodgy there.
Like a bat out of
I'm
hell.
just gonna solo that. I don't like the way that's.
Flying away like a bat out of hell.
That's
Like a
funny.
bat out of hell. Like a bat out of hell.
Harmonies.
Oh, like a bat out of hell. I'll be gone when the morning comes. Like a bat out of hell. Like a bat out of hell.
And piano at the end. Somewhere. On the ooze as well. What's it? And that's the end of the Meatloaf. Sorry, I didn't really have much to say about that. That was yeah, more or less just me learning the song. I'm not very good at like putting my own spin on covers, really. Ooh, I'm fading out. I'll see you on the next song because I've automated the fade here. Okay, bye. Okay, and song number 4. So that took a long time because there are a lot of things running in this track through Native Instruments Contact, which is, once again, another plugin. Now, this is 8Dio's Majestica suite, which is quite a pricey plugin, but well worth it. Let me just check that this is happening. Yes, good. All right, so this is Moon and Moron, which is the latest track. Where to begin with this one? Actually, you know what? I might have to switch. Bump that up. I'm going to bump that up just in case it claps out, because there's a lot of things going on in this one. Let's just solo the horns, which I think is where this thing began. So these were inspired by John Williams' Star Wars thing, but also the Gustav Holst Planets suite, particularly the Mars movement. And as you can hear, they sound really realistic. I've started with a legato horn swell. Very cool. Doubled with some strings. So I'm playing all of this stuff on a MIDI keyboard, and then the drums kick in at some point. Wow, okay. Trying to get my head together with what's going on here. The Colegno is really what gives it that sense of drama. Colegno strings are basically when a violinist will use the wood of the bow to really get like a very aggressive sound. Sounds like this. Very cool. I use those in a song that I put out on an album called Good last year, called This Conversation Is Over. That's a very effective sound. Very dramatic. Mellotron strings. So altogether it sounds like this. And at some point the guitars and basses kick in. Very simple guitar part, sorry. Rhythm is 11/8. The time signature is 11/8. Just dropped off a 12/8. Just dropped off one of the eighth notes, and there you go. Cool rhythm. All right. So, man, I don't even remember. We have orchestra hits, which is very 90s sound, but I really enjoy this sound. This was done by a plugin I picked up for $1, which is called Expand 2, I think. I don't know where this is. There it is. That's the guy there. It's quite an old plugin now. It's probably like over 10 years old, but still has some very cool sounds in it. And it was very cheap. The the return of the Mega Drive. Oh, so the Mega Drive is in the right channel, and this is basically this sound. Now the Celeste, which is basically a vibraphone played like a keyboard, like a piano, I guess, like a xylophone, but the metallic xylophone, triggered with hammers. Very celestial sound, I guess. Most famously, recently used on soundtracks like Edward Scissorhands by Danny Elfman, and actually the Harry Potter theme as well uses the Celeste pretty extensively, which I also think was written by John Williams, was it? Correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure that that's right. All right, let's keep going. What else are we hearing? Oh, just drums, you know? And then kick into the guitar rhythm again. Now in a moment we'll hear the retro RC20 plug-in slowly fade in, as you can see here. Automated that, so it's turning into a cassette tape. Everything's turning into a raw signal, so it's just sounds like a bad tape, cassette tape. Now this song is like, I'll talk when we're out of this. So that sound with the clav, which is this guy, which was, I think, the clav was another keyboard instrument, was invented to sort of in this. Maybe it was the 60s or the 70s. I don't know exactly when it was made, but they were trying to emulate the sound of a harpsichord. But as a result, a lot of funk bands started to use the clav with a wah pedal, like a guitar wah pedal, and that's what, you know, Stevie Wonder's obviously the prime example of that sound. But I was trying to go for, there seems to be a lot of albums from the sort of mid-70s would have all these kind of funky sounds, or like classically trained musicians trying to sound funky, but also with big orchestral symphonic sounds. So you can sort of hear the jun dun dun across the chords of the clav. This is me playing, desperately trying to sound funky on a clav as well. Just thought it was an interesting sound. And solo the funk guitar coming up. And the bass guitar, the bass guitar sounds like this. So that's the verse. And vocally, again, it's just kind of the bluesy kind of singing style. Very popular in the 70s. Say no more, mate.
I walk this planet in search of knowledge and truth. And yes, the moon's a spaceship. And yes, I have the proof. An ancient astronaut came and told me in a dream that the moon is mostly hollow, safe for seconds and still breathes.
Bit of whispering there somewhere. I don't know where it is. Oh, there. This guy.
We're being lied to, it seems.
Whispers always sound a bit dodge. And then the chorus is built around this melody. Which has a weird twist at the end of that chorus melody, which enables it to move up a semitone. I think the first chorus goes from F to B flat to A minor to G, F, B flat, B natural, C sharp, which is the dominant, moves back to F sharp major. So I wanted to have this kind of sense of stepping up every chorus. I'm still on the fence about whether or not that melody is effective or not. But I guess the more I hear it, the more I like it, actually. So it just takes a little bit of getting used to. Let's hear it. So that, now if anyone can help me find this old Looney Tunes cartoon, I don't know what it was, but it was like a flat Earth believer and a round Earth believer were arguing, and the one of them's going like, the Earth is round like your head, and the other guy would smack him across the head and he'd say, the Earth is flat like your head, because he just bashed him in the head. Cartoon violence. If anyone can find that cartoon, that'd be good too. That's where that lyric came from. It's not the moon that's hollow, it's your head. So this song, for those that don't know, is very much inspired by the conspiracy theory thing that seems to be a thing for some reason. Salty does a podcast called The Hypothetical Institute, which sort of discusses all this kind of crazy conspiracy nut stuff. And it's funny, like, these people are mad because they actually think that this stuff is legit and real. But singing all of these crazy concepts is super fun because it, I don't know what I'm trying to say, like, it's fiction. When it gets into the second verse here, it talks about, like, your queen's a cannibal and all that. It's fun.
I'm on this flat earth in pursuit of the lizard man. Your queen's a cannibal, your leader's hiding Nephilim.
Second mention of a Nephilim in the Toe Hider catalogue. First one was a song called Giants Who Walk with Men, which was about Nephilim, about angels coming down and having sex with humans.
I'm on this flat earth in pursuit of the lizard man. Your queen's a cannibal, your leader's hiding Nephilim. Oh, do you not hear?
Okay, so that scream, it's a very throaty scream. It's not very loud, actually, which is contrasting to the Meatloaf style of singing, where it's very much just power and allowing the voice to break up. If you push it too hard, the voice I don't know much about it, but I'm just sort of going by how it feels. It feels like the vocal cords are banging against each other in a very violent way. Whereas this kind of scream, it sounds like you actually back the pressure off, so the vocal cords can kind of collapse on themselves or something. That's the best way I can describe it. Where are we? Now that was inspired by. Now there's an album by the Alan Parsons Project, which I believe was some sort of hovercraft. I don't know if you know that Simpsons thing. Every time I hear the name of that band, I always think of the Simpsons. But the Alan Parsons was famous mostly for producing The Dark Side of the Moon by Pink Floyd, but he also had his own project called the Alan Parsons Project, and he released an album based on some Edgar Allan Poe stories, poems, and whatever, called Tales of Mystery and Imagination, which was also a book by Poe, I think. Anyway, there's a song on that album, The Telltale Heart, which again, Simpsons fans will know that when Lisa makes the little model of that. But the song is a really cool shuffle song, and it starts out, and I didn't know for years, but it was actually Arthur Brown, The Crazy World of Arthur Brown. I am the god of hellfire, that guy. He sings on the song, and he just gives off this really blood-curdling, almost humorous scream at the start of that song. If you want to go check that out, then that's what inspired this scream.
Coming from the skies, the moon's a giant spaceship controlled by otherworldly spies. Your mind's completely cooked.
Cooked is a very cool word, which I picked up from Salty and his podcast with his mates, where they just talk about how things were cooked. It's really funny. When something's just not, when somebody's mind is cooked, it's like they're just too far gone. I love it. So we're up to the second chorus.
Your mind's completely cooked. You spent too many years alone with science fiction books. I don't believe a word of this, you idiotic man. You have to show me first and steps, or I won't give a damn.
Another step up there. Okay, I didn't mean to do that, but this next section is, I wrote this on the bass, actually, so let's find the bass part. It's probably my favourite part of the song, actually. There he is. So I don't really know why this... Is that like green? I don't know why some tracks just decide to be different colours, but evidently that seems to happen sometimes. Anyway, so that do-do-do-do-do-do, that bit was a bit of an afterthought, but I liked it. So with the context of the... I think I'm playing this on clav. Now, I didn't actually play this on clav because this is a tricky key. So at this point, we're in the key of A flat minor. Which I'm not a very good keyboard player, so a lot of the time I have to play things in A minor and then transpose them, which I think is what I did. So you heard it here first. I'm just a giant cheat. Sorry, let's go from here. Al Di Meola or Ingo Munster. With more mellotron strings underneath. So I've got a track here called Moog, which is actually not a Moog at all. It is... And once again, I don't know where anything is. There. This is through Reactor 5, which is again another Native Instrument thing. So this is a preset that I've tweaked called Sick Rick, which I guess was Rick Wakeman thing. Again, oh yeah, so you got to check out, if you haven't already, you got to listen to Rick Wakeman's, who was the keyboard player from Yes, Journey to the Center of the Earth, because once again it has that juxtaposition of funky clav with orchestral elements. Some very fascinating kind of sound to me. Anyway, back to this guy. This is a thing called Monarch, which, again, I think was pretty pricey, but it was a very close emulation of a Moog, a mini Moog, which was a synth instrument in the late 60s, I think, was when they were invented. And this sounds pretty cool. Let's solo that. Pretty cool. So in this story, in this song, it's basically two people arguing over whether or not the moon is a spaceship. And in this final chorus, the guy who believes it's not a spaceship and that it's actually just the moon, for some reason, he starts to be convinced by the other guy that, well, maybe you're onto something, which is the whole power of persuasion thing. Like, if you are good enough at arguing your opinion, then you can, it's like selling something. You can convince others that maybe the bullshit you're spinning is in fact fact. Anyway, so now we reach the third section of the song. This is kind of in three sections, I guess. The orchestral intro, funky bulk of the song, and the outro, which in my mind we head out to space. Those chords were improvised as well. Now we get into the Celeste, I should say. Must have started as a clav because I've labeled it as clav. Anyway, these notes are reminiscent of the plastic bag theme, I guess, from American Beauty. Just that little trill in the higher notes there. Let's see if we can find that again. That bit. The guy that wrote that's Thomas Newman, who's comes from a very talented family, the Newmans. Can't remember how that works. Randy Newman, Thomas Newman, there's another one. I don't think they're all brothers, but they're somewhat related. They're responsible for a lot of iconic movie soundtracks. Now we have some sound effects. This is generated by a very curious plugin called Metaphysical Function. Let's hear this. Very cool. I also use that on some of the sounds from Good, Dan vs. Egg, and How Do Ghosts Work. It's just weird plugin that you can't manipulate it. Like, you can't play with it. You just turn it on and slide things around and it generates these cool spacey noises. And also, right at the end, I sent a mix to Salty and said, I think I've finished this song. Do you want to check it out? And he said, yeah, it sounds great. He said what would make that outro spookier is if you added some of those recordings from number station transmissions, which are basically... I don't know much about it. You'll have to ask Salty about it, but it's like when the government, military, CIA, I don't know, someone are trying to send messages to other people using codes, numbers, and he suggested this one, which is I think it's German. Let's hear that. Starts with this weird telephone sounding thing. And the cool thing about this stuff is, you know, people still haven't really been able to decode what the hell they're talking about. So that's kind of fun. And finally, this mysterious message. Which I played with later in the... Well, that was actually gonna be the ending. Here. Whatever could that mean? And I don't know what this is. Let's try these strings. So these were just improvised for a few minutes, playing some cool chords, some, you know, not sticking to any particular key or anything, just trying out sounds. And that's pretty much it. That leads us to the end of this first monthly music roundup. So thanks for hanging out with me. Sorry I wasn't able to engage with the chat because I haven't got the chat window open. Well, there's one other clav part here. I don't know if this is worth anything. Oh, okay, so that was my first idea for the solo, but then I came up with that bass riff. Okay, cool. Well, thanks a lot for joining me here. That was pretty cool. Sorry, my mind is a little bit sketchy and I lose track of where all of the stuff is. Please head over to the initial post where I posted this live stream if you've got any other questions about stuff or how I can make this better. I'm always keen and a little bit concerned whether or not this stuff is kind of just a bit boring or whether it's interesting or somewhere in between. If you've got ideas on how I can make this a little bit more enjoyable for you, then please let me know. But in the meantime, that looks like that was basically 2 hours worth of stuff. So I think that's more than what people's will want to see, but maybe I'm wrong. Who knows? Anyway, thanks for joining me. I'm going to hit stop now, and goodbye.